Hello, hello, hello. How's it going? I'm back. I'm back, and I'm going to tell you a few things. We're gonna talk about some stuff. We're gonna talk about some stuff because I feel like there's been a lot of confusion. There's been a lot of fear. I've noticed that when it comes to tech jobs, and as someone who's worked in tech for about a decade now, at least, well, a little bit more if it's internships, I can tell you this is not by any what's happening now in the tech market isn't it's been the writing's been on the wall for quite a long time. So let's break it down. Let's break it down. Let's break it down. I'm gonna try to break it down in a way that I feel like is digestible. I'm not gonna get too nitty gritty on things, but as someone who, listen, in 2018, I was already seeing, and this was a point where I was ready to make the senior jump, and I was already seeing, oh wait, most of the job postings are senior. And I remember calling it then. I was telling friends, I was like, listen, there's going to be minimum wage tech jobs 100% in like the next few years. And that's what we're there right now. And when I say tech jobs, I mean like developers. And that's really what's happening. If you want to just cut the video right now, whatever, I don't care. I'll get into the details. If people want details, you can continue watching. But if you just want to know the reason why, is so why? The market is moving away from developers. Okay. That doesn't necessarily mean engineers. You know, engineer is kind of like a bullshit term anyway, but in this field, because it's, it's just people will say engineer and they're just like making React components, but it's moving away from developers. Developers is a very important term in tech. It's not like it is a real term. It's a very important term in tech, and it's something that is. Hold on a second. Let's see. I gotta add everyone. But it is an important term in tech. And one of the important terms, reason why it's an important term in tech, is because the advent of it is what sparked the market saturation. And let's talk about market saturation. Let's talk about, before I get too into the nitty gritty, I really want to stress the point that right now, part of the reason why you're probably having a hard time getting a job, or you're like a junior and all this, is because the market's saturated. It's been saturated probably for, I mean, honestly, it was getting to this point 5 years ago. So you're in the late stage of something, and partly why you don't know this is because people were selling to you a lot, and they were selling to you through boot camps and through really inflating the jobs with funding in like the 2020 time, and also just FANG, because they were trying to competitively get as many developers as they can. But the market's been saturated for a really long time. So what is market saturation? A lot of you guys probably know this, obviously. I think a lot of people know this, but the reason I'm saying this is a fundamental to the conversation. Okay, what is market saturation? Market saturation arises when the volume of a product or service in a marketplace has been maximized. So there's a ceiling to all markets, but when it comes to volume, when it comes to things that can be sold, there's always a ceiling. Sorry, crypto bros. There's always a ceiling, and this is, you run the max function, okay? You maximized it, all right? At the point of saturation, a company can only achieve, so this is actually talking about like a company selling products. But this is a term that there's also a supply and demand general macroeconomic term here. So a company can only achieve further growth through new product improvements by taking existing market share from competitors or increasing overall consumer demand. Now, you're not a company, and let's actually go down, because I think they talk about it here. You're not a company, but really imagine you were a company when you're applying to jobs with the sentence. So its products and services have to be more innovative than its competitors to entice customers to buy it, right? So you're probably noticing that you can't just get the degree. You can't just, some of you can, but in a lot of these instances, you can't just get the thing. You have to do other innovative, you have to play the play the networking game, play different games in order to get jobs. If you're ever in a career, and I will stress this, I really want to put this, I want to stress this point. If you're ever in a career situation where you can't get opportunities without getting to the point of really focusing on competition, how to be competitive, if there's no low hanging fruit like that, you're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have a bad time. Just being real. So that's market saturation. So like the first thing here. Oh yeah, I just forgot. Can you guys see my screen? Hey, what's up? What's up, people in the chat? How's it going? Let's see. I got to be able to look at the chat while I'm doing this. Anyway, so that's really important. But we're going to get into the history a little bit of why this isn't. I'm telling you, this is not surprising to anyone who was working as a developer 5+ years ago. This is not at all surprising at all, especially if you've been in the industry for 10 years. And there's waves, but now's a little different. And right. So before I actually want to, so we got into market saturation. Let's just make a note of that. The market is saturated. It's saturated with developers. It just is. But there's also different levels of what's happening right now. And let's actually take a more macro view. I don't know if you guys know, I have this already open, about the sectors of the economy. I'll be very brief. I'm not trying to talk down to you. Listen, I get it. You know everything. You're an engineer. But just listen for a second. I got to get the first principles out of the way. So the economy is broken down into sectors. Traditionally, 3 sectors. We have a new sector now, the 4th sector, which you can analyze as a part of this 3rd sector, honestly. And I think that's typically what economists do. Someone comment if I'm wrong, but so the primary sector, which exists in nature, and whenever you have people in currency. So it's the extraction of natural resources in agriculture, such as fishing and mining. This is very important. Okay, the 3rd sector is very important here because we're going to get into the real things that you can't leak code your way out of. Okay, you can try really hard and get a job 100%, especially if you have career already. I'm not saying you can't get a job, but I'm saying that like in general, they're going to be going away. A lot of these developer jobs, and that's just a fact. Okay, but so the secondary sector it involves the processing, manufacturing, construction of goods using the resources from the primary sector. So you have the people that do the farming and fishing and all that. These are the people that actually can build, right? This is the manufacturing. When people say manufacturing is leaving America, to younger people watching, when people complain about manufacturing and how we don't do manufacturing, they're talking about this. They're talking about how we'll get a lot of our crops, we'll get a lot of the natural resources, and we'll ship it essentially to other countries and then support their secondary sector. And we don't support our secondary sector. Part of the reason why that's the case is because naturally, this 3rd sector, after the World War II, blew up. Okay? There's a little lesson. There's a little Jared Coder lesson, okay? So like the 3rd sector blew up, right? That's partially how America got so much dominance, is because we were at this central core where we could be this almost global economic powerhouse. And then let me explain of other countries that have their own primary and secondary sectors, but they don't really have the means to connect these different countries. So it involves the provision of services such as retail, entertainment, and financial services. It's a lot more than that, right? But really, when we're talking about professionals, so like being a professional wasn't really a thing. until like this past century. People just had normal jobs. They just had jobs. There was like scientists, there was academics and all that, but being a professional, someone you work as in a service job, you're a suit guy. You know what I mean? Like you're a person that is more so interfacing, which is a really important point that I'm going to get to later when we're talking about interfaces. But you're interfacing with other businesses, and you're more so in people, and you're more so selling the services which are supported by the primary and secondary sector, or the secondary sectors of other countries. I'm not an expert on this. I just know enough to navigate through the world. Okay, so the fourth sector is the knowledge based activities. Okay, so here we have things like IT, things that you do, things that software engineers are doing, in which you're building a lot of infrastructure for these services and for these other sectors. And you're using a lot of high tech, bleeding edge technology to do that, and a lot of information technology, which is important because that's your job. Um, anyway, let's see. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kyo DeQuinn. Thanks, man. Yeah. No, yeah, I'm making videos. This is an important video, though. This is important. So let's get back into it. So we talked about the sector. This graph is all you really need to know for all of my second order thinkers out there. This graph is all you really need to know on why you can't just, leak code your way out of a. You don't want to work against the market, and this is really all you need to know. So I laid down the first principles, right? Okay, what is a sector? Okay. So this is a graph that's the distribution of the labor force by sector in the US. It goes back pretty far, like in the 1840s to 2010. This isn't even now, right? This is 2010. It's like 14 years ago, almost 15 years ago. So we start with agriculture being because that's how the economy used to be. It used to be based on nutrition, really, because that's how society is. That's how all societies are. Is like, who's got the most food? Who can farming cultures beat hunting cultures because they out fucking live them. They out produce them, because when you have surplus, which is a food nutrition term, I don't actually know this, obviously, because I'm like a tech bro, but I would argue most terminology that I've seen in economics are from the agriculture. So before, that was the base of everything. We had industry. It was very minimal. You see here the rise, probably up to here, like 1920, of the Industrial Revolution, in which industry sort of almost one-to-one replaces, or it matches agriculture. And you have services just actually on this continual rise. And this is why we're in an important time right now. I know a lot of people like to say this is like, maybe AI is like the internet, or AI is very different. AI is very different. It's a signal. I know a lot of people now may think, oh, AI isn't going to take your job, or it's not about that. It's about the signal of what it's doing, and why businesses are interested in this signal. So, I just realized I closed a few tabs I need here. But anyway, so as you can see, services just keeps increasing and reaching this point that we're at now, in which it's by far the amount of people that operate in the labor force are operating on this system, on this in this sector that you as a tech person are servicing. That's what you're doing. You're by a vast majority, you're optimizing, servicing, making more efficient the services economy. And also you see agriculture get really low, which probably isn't great. But anyway, okay. So I want to talk about signals. So let's talk about signals here. So what is what is like a market signal? So like, this isn't like a super I'm sure someone probably wrote papers on this term. This is the best way for me to say it, right? So it's something that's a signal, something that people can use to speculate, and something that people can use in order to move their money in different ways, and how businesses can make decisions based on signals. And anyone in data science knows that's your job, is to produce signals, find them. You know, you don't want to make it up, but you produce these signals for these businesses, right? So let's talk about CPI and PPI. It's the last economic thing I'm going to get into. I'm going to get into JavaScript and all that in a little bit. Just, it's all good. It's all good. I'm going to get into JavaScript and, things that I'm not trying to just like put jargon. I'm trying to be as high level as possible about it. But where's this graph? I just closed it. Oh, it's right here. Okay. Yeah, this graph is horrifying, by the way. Let's see. This is the CPI. Let's just find it again. Is this it? No. So there's a difference between PPI and CPI. Labor statistics. Let's try to find this. Is this it? No. One second. Should have had the graph already here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We want to do 12-month percentage change. These changes are like, they just take the day by day and they look at like the next year, and then they're pretty much just saying change over time. It's not great. Okay. All right. Well, okay. So you guys probably know CPI, right? Consumer Price Index. The PPI is that for businesses. So it's sort of like the inflation of prices for businesses, that rate. Uh, by the way, I don't know if you see this percentage, but if it goes over 2%, that's bad for an economy. Looks like for multiple years from 2021 2023, it's been in like the 7% range. But anyway, and by the way, this dip right here is when America and all the countries decided to close the fucking economy for cold and flu season. So we're seeing the effects of that right now. And you can complain all you want about the politics or whatever of it. There's you not being able to find a job is absolutely correlated to it. Absolutely. So, don't blame me, okay? I'm just a messenger here. So here the PPI is more so with businesses, the prices that producers, right, are going to have to spend. And then you have consumer price index. That's you. That's like, and you're a consumer. Okay. I get it. You write code. Sorry. You produce a lot of JavaScript, but in the economy, in your position, you're a consumer and your prices have been fucked up as well. The reason why this is important is these are signals to businesses that they may need to cut costs. And people often look at revenue for that, but I don't know if you guys have noticed in tech, but a lot of these companies will have a lot of high revenue, but their profit margins will be a little iffy. And a lot of this revenue is downstream from global indicators. Anyway, I mean global markets. And anyway, so let's get back to let's see. I'm looking at my notes. Right. Let's get back to this. So these market signals have large. So I have a business in which I talk to businesses about AI. And one thing, and I've seen a lot of things on like Hacker News where people will talk about, oh, like people are tired of the AI marketing and branding. No, they're not. They're absolutely not. And one of the reasons why it's good not to just react to what other engineers say when you're trying to get a job is because other engineers in all fields, I'm not just trying to target engineers, other people in fields are typically just going to be reacting to their emotions and their position in the market, and they don't want certain things to happen. So a lot of this data you're seeing of people getting tired of AI or whatever, listen, it's not people will you'll hear a business you work for be tired of messaging and all this stuff, and they'll still lay you off. Okay, because these are market things. These are things that, and I'll actually get into the main portion of this. This is the most important breakdown that I want to do here, because this is how I'm trying to distill how I sort of understand how I've seen this progression over the past decade in the best way I can, simplest way. Let's talk about JavaScript. Okay, so let's just start with JavaScript here, and let's use a system that I like. Why? The result and the result of the result. Let's see. Let's make that clear. So when we talk about things, when it comes to we don't have to think about markets. It's competition. When you're looking for opportunities, and you see like a thing, you see like, oh, okay, I want to be a software engineer. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be, I want to get into restauranteering, whatever you want to do. Think about the market and think about the position that you're in. A lot of people in, let's say, this started, let's just say like 2012. I'm going to say around when like Node started to get really popular, like 2010-ish. JS takes over. Okay. So JavaScript takes over. Why is that important? Why am I pointing at JavaScript here? It could be any language. There's tons of people. It wasn't even the most dominant language people use until like recently, right? I could have said Python. I could have said whatever. So the reason why everything's been moving towards JavaScript land. Let me actually write this down. Let's just do the why. Why is JavaScript important here, and why you don't have a job? Okay. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm talking about JavaScript's market saturation. Let's just do market saturation. So we're talking about why like these things saturate the market. Okay. Let's do JavaScript. Okay. It's not great. It's not a great visual. But it is what it is. I need to get my thoughts out there. Wait, what? Bro, I miss your 10x projects. Hey, what's up, Florian? What's up? Yeah, no, I have like a secret. I have a little like stealth company that I guess I'll show off sometime. That's the tree-based web dev stuff has led into a project I'm very proud of. Okay, so why? So let's talk about why JavaScript got into market saturation. Interfaces for services blew up. And this happened for a long time. A lot of this is the .com bubble. But the interesting thing that happened with JavaScript is that sometime around the mid 2000s, and let me actually be very clear, services are important because the reason why I'm talking about services is because it's not different than the service economy. JavaScript is the backbone of how all these businesses that blew up for the past 100 years are interfacing their products, their services with the world. It's connecting the world. It's connecting a lot of the economy. It did over the past couple decades. A lot of the economy with the world. And the backends are whatever. You can make the backend with everything and whatever you want. But JavaScript, all roads lead to JavaScript, and Swift and Objective C. But all roads lead to these clients, and that's what developers were. When you see Ballmer be like developers, that's what it is. It's the culmination of a massive growth in the economy. I mean, exponential growth in a sector of the economy, and how we can make our economy as Americans, how we can make the most use of that. And obviously, other countries followed suit. And it's not, people didn't plan, let's fucking push JavaScript. JavaScript's just the language of the web, right? And the web is how we do these things. So it just blew up. And the reason why the mid 2000s are different than the 90s, because, JavaScript's been around for a while, is that frameworks, the ease of use, the ability to churn out these things quicker also exponentially grew. And it permeated through culture. And with apps, you have people making apps with this shit. A lot of apps were taken over but from Objective-C to JavaScript. And a lot of reason why JavaScript reached a market saturation quickly is because of market forces. Okay? And we're talking about market saturation in terms of like it reaching a maximal point. So it reaches a point in which you don't need more JavaScript developers. So when you have, and by the way, when you have boot camps, when you have people setting up institutions to push people towards something in the economy, you're already past saturation, by the way. So, and that's something that like you can't see when you're just a kid and you're like 20 and you're trying to get in like coding boot camp. You can't really see it because you're just looking at your life, but that's the fact. Like the coding boot camp is replicating. I'm not, this is just reality. People like me that got in very early and were able to get very good jobs very early doing it. Okay. And it takes and institutions take a long time to set up, right? This stuff happens very quick. So what's the result of this? What do I have here? CRUD. And this is the point I want to make. This is the point of the video in the next like 15 minutes. The overall is that, developers is a saturated market. That's why. But the connection I'm about to make right here is the most important thing. So you have CRUD everywhere. CRUD everywhere. Why does this matter? And then, by the way, CRUD everywhere. I don't know if you know CRUD. It's create, read, update, delete. This is in UIs and APIs and more, right? I'm talking about you interacting with APIs to create data and to use data as well. I'm also talking about interfacing with services, right? I'm not just talking about people going on Twitter and tweeting and all that shit. CRUD is whenever you're interacting with these APIs and you're ingesting data, you're pushing data, you're updating, blah, blah, blah. The result of it is more data. So this is the result of the result. Not even just more data, tons of data. Okay, let's keep it PG. Tons of data every day. I remember at a company, fairly reputable company I used to work for, one of the like 25 plus year guys who worked there, I remember he once told me, he's like, like, what do you think we do every day? I was like, I don't know, like destroy America. And then he's like, no, what do you think we do every day? We just produce URLs. We produce a certain amount of URLs every day. And then I really thought about it, and I thought about what those URLs do. And each URL produces a ton of data, advertising mostly. And whenever we have these interfaces, and we have people in the market moving and producing and consuming, you're going to have a ton of data. And guys, this is like this point right here. When we get to this is a long time ago. This isn't like 2020, right? This is like 2014, 2015. The point where we have so much data, we don't know what to do with it. And I don't know if you know what data does for businesses since the beginning of time, but it gives you patterns and it gives you an ability to understand your business. And for all you data scientists out there who want to, maybe you want to get into consulting, you want to find a way to sell something to a business, data is want signals of what's happening. I mean, companies want data. Companies want signals of what's happening, and they use data for that. That's what they pay for. And these patterns are are just blew up. And partly what this did. Oh, this is so jank. This is so jank. This is my lesson right now. Partly what did data do? Well, let's actually guess. What do you think data did? What do you think the explosion of data from JavaScript did? And I'm going to say from JavaScript. It is. It just is, man. Okay? Most of the data we have is from these big companies that at the end of the day you're using their JavaScript UIs and their APIs, okay? That's the all roads lead to JavaScript, okay? What did it do? Okay, so in the 2015 to like 17, or those few years time, you had a ton of data engineers and data scientists move into companies and start to do a lot of machine learning, right? What's the machine learning killer app? LLMs, bro. Right? Okay, so and I'm not just gonna say AI and machine learning. The reason why I'm not is because LMs are the killer app of it. And a lot of people who say the reason why people are getting tired of LLMs or whatever is because it's saturated the market faster than I've seen anything. So many, almost every other company that has the means to is using LLMs within like a year or 2 years. That can use it, and that's a lot. Okay, so let's talk about AI, right? So let's talk about AI's market saturation because the data, there comes to be a point where people have to do something with this data. When you see these lawsuits on OpenAI and all these companies, uh, these companies that are, by the way, this is like a unidirectional thing. This is going in one direction. Okay. But when you see these lawsuits and like they're web scraping so much, what is that about? They're trying to get that data, for that the developers already developed. Okay. It already happened. It's in the past. Let it go. The data's been made. It's so much to the point that there doesn't need to be that the code is data. That's why you have things like Cursor AI and all this, is that there's so much data that the code itself is data that we don't need to do the work for anymore. Okay? That's actually a good thing. If you detach yourself from it a little bit, it's a good thing. So the why for AI, why did AI reach market saturation? It's because of data. Okay? Because of a lot of fucking data very quickly. That led it to a point that it could have a killer app. If you can have a killer app, that means there's been a lot of work up to that point. So what's the result? What's the result? You guys get it? Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna give an update on what I'm building. I'm gonna give an update on. I'll give it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty fucking cool. All right. Anyway, sorry. I don't want to. I want. This is about this though. So, what's the result of the data? So, you're signaling. So, a lot of people think AI is just about taking jobs, and it kind of is. Sorry, but that's kind of what it's about. But it's not just that. It's a signal to the market. So let's go back to this graph right here. It turns out at this point of services, it's actually when you have these inflationary forces and you have the PPI, for instance, you have different things that strangle businesses, especially when it comes to dealing with countries overseas. The services gets cut first, guys. The services, you can't just cut farmers. Like people need to eat. Services get cut. And what I mean more so is the cost. People need to cut costs. And a lot of times it's not because of the individual business owner is trying to do it, it's because they're reacting to the market. Okay? Now really tie the dots here a little bit. So the result is it's a signal to the market with the killer app to, sorry, this is like to cut cost. It's a signal to the market to cut cost. That's all it is. It's automation. Automation. That's all it is. It's an automation signal. It's not so much, a lot of these companies aren't even using LangChain, and they're not even using GPT. A lot of them are just like, they explore that for a week and then they're like, okay, well, we need to find a way to cut these people off, and they'll find a way. Businesses will find a way when it comes to money. Okay. It may be a linear regression. Like a lot of times, a lot of this is more so the culture of data science permeating. When we talk about AI taking jobs and automating, it's more so that we're in a phase of the economy. Remember, this is a linear like progression. This is time over time. First, you have JavaScript do this, and then now we're here, and now we're at a time at which we have this signal to the market to cut costs and to automate. Okay, does that make sense? So, what's the result of the result? You're gonna hate me for this. I don't know. I don't know. The video is why. The video is why the tech jobs are coming back. The reality is that they're not coming back because they're not needed. Okay, we built what we needed to build. You were hired to build what you needed to build, and now AI is genuinely taking the jobs. Okay, and it's not because of like LLMs are literally like signing into your Slack and saying I'm here soon. but part of the reason is because we have enough data to not need developers anymore. That's honestly the real thing. And the developer is this phase of building the interfaces to these services, the service economy. And now the way these inflationary forces are acting on the economy, that's the best way, the most diplomatic way I'll say it. Because of that, we are now downstream from a few different, I don't know the best way to put it. Because of these forces, companies need to cut costs. That's just a reality. It's a reality. And that's not going to change. Even if whether the economy is up or down, that isn't going to change. Because if the economy comes up, this is why it's good to think in a macroeconomic way, is that when you have market saturation and all this stuff in certain sectors, in certain fields or whatever, industries, the market going up isn't because of that industry. Unless you found a new market, unless you have an emerging market, right? So want some good advice? Dude, just learn a new framework. I'm just playing. Don't learn a new framework. Don't learn a new framework. But anyway, that's it. No. Actually, let me actually give some advice. I'm not gonna be a dick. I'm gonna give advice. Let's talk about some advice. Don't just learn a new framework, because I always find engineers and software developers, engineers, whatever, hackers, whatever. Well, actually, not hackers, engineers. They like new paradigms. So don't make your only solution to your problems a new paradigm. Because what is a new paradigm? What is a new paradigm? It's a new way of doing the same thing. Let's see, new paradigm. It's a new way of doing the same thing, okay? And I think there's an addiction to this because that's actually the job. When you're working at a company as an engineer, that you actually do need to do this. You do need to learn new frameworks. You do need to do the same thing a different way a lot. But when we're talking about working against the market, which is what you're doing, so David and Goliath, whenever you're in a situation in which you're not in power, or not even that you're not in power, where opportunities aren't moving your way, you don't have advantage. Okay, Goliath was bigger and stronger. He had advantage. Whenever you don't have advantage, you have to strategize. Typically, if you're starting a new career, you don't want to start out strategizing. Okay, so you want to position yourself where you don't have to do this. But if you do have to do it, you do need to strategize. Focus on advantages. Right? So a lot of people think that the advantage, like for instance, right now, having a good network is a massive advantage. I know people have said it over and over again, but it's true. It's true. Being able to talk, being able to sell yourself, take a sales course, you know what I mean? Like these are clear advantages. Doing social media, making content, these are advantages. That's probably the biggest thing is making content. But like these are advantages. But understand that you shouldn't actually need that. You should actually just choose sorry, I know it's like Mr. Hindsight, but you should choose a career that is emerging in technology. So you don't have to be working against the market this way. Because what I was explaining, that's the direction of the market, right? So if right now there's already a developer market saturation, and by the way, it's fine to learn to code now. I'm not telling you not to, but I'm saying if you just want to be a JavaScript guy right now, obviously you're going to have some advantages because I'll tell you right now, when in 2012, if you just learned JavaScript, it was super easy to get a job. Super easy. I'd say I remember for I knew a lot. I didn't go to NYU, but I knew a lot of the kids at NYU, and every single one of them got like I don't know if that's the same way. And every single one of them got like 6-figure job. In fact, I had a friend who was he had like I don't know, it was like 80,000 or something. He's an NYU kid. He got like he was talking to me about how he should change his resume. It's like 2015 or something. He was talking to me about 2016, how he's like, I'm looking at everyone else making, 150, 120 at like these FANG jobs. And and I'm like, dude, 80's fine. 80's like listen, it's your first job. But that's what I'm talking about. That's how easy it was, is he was seeing himself as like getting an 80K job or whatever as like, wow, he like fucked up. You know what I mean? And NYU is a good college, but I'd say most colleges, if you had a CS degree 10 years ago, you were going to get a fucking job 100%. And it was going to be high paying. So like really think about that when you're trying this hard right now. You're positioned poorly. And that's okay. I'm not saying you can't get a job, but I'm trying to explain that this is a progression and it's not going to go back. So it's not going to go back to a point at which it's not saturated, obviously. But AI, I actually don't. I think a lot of I even though LangChain is retarded, I actually think LangChain hasn't reached saturation yet, and I think there's a lot of people hiring in it. But that's what I'm saying. It's like because they're actually not like moving against the market. I hate LangChain though, but does that make sense? Does that make sense? Learning a new framework only to be bested by in shoving its docs and get a repo in Gemini LLM. Yeah, right. It's all good. The jobs are going away. It's all good though. It's all good. Any questions? Anyone hanging out? Yeah, I'll show what I'm working on. I'll show what I'm working on. I mean, not right now. I do what I like. I need to keep some privacy on it for a little bit, but not for too long. Not for too long. Anyway, I want to like make more videos where I'm like just providing value. I think stuff like this, providing value. If you entered in right now, then hey, you missed it. You're gonna have to rewind. Is that Will? Jay, why did you start programming? I wanted to make something great. Yeah, and I was addicted to making things. I loved making things. I still do. Still do. And whenever you have, and that's why I never had an issue. I don't think. Well, I think there's like the Autodax or something. Someone was telling me about it. There's people that when they're young, they always do things that are more intuitive, and it was intuitive for me to code and things like this. So it was that's the best position you can have in any regard to opportunities is do what you love, you know. But the thing about that is if you do what you love, you're not going to be I would bet $1,000,000 you're not going to right now be learning how to make CRUD apps. Okay? I would bet $1,000,000 you're not just going to be making CRUD apps right now. Because partially I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's like I hated that. I remember I hated the whole like because everything I would try to make was always a creative endeavor, All right. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I had a lot in the beginning of the video, it was a lot of graphs, a lot of visuals, a lot of graphs. All right, guys. See ya. Till next time.